Hey folks, welcome back to my live stream series for WWDC 21. This is the fifth of our live streams. It's Friday already. The conference ends today. It's extraordinarily sad, but all good things must come to an end. And as a result, the last day of WW videos has already shipped many hours ago, and this is the last stream. So this time we'll be looking at what's new in SwiftUI for iOS 15, part 2. Part 2, as it were. So we're at a Monday. We had the first part of this with all the major new features of SwiftUI in iOS 15. Tuesday was what's new in Xcode 13. Wednesday, we had Doxy on Thursday. I've lost track. There've been so many. It's been a really busy time. We had a what's new in Swift 5.5, of course. That was Tuesday. There you go. So there's been so many. It's been really, really busy, and it's been fantastic. You folks all joining in. In this stream, it's a follow-on to Monday, really, to look at a whole other set of powerful features, changes, improvements to SwiftUI in iOS 15 that will change the way we work. And this is not, Monday was big. Monday was all the big hitters, like, the keyboard focus API, the pull to refresh, searchable, and more. It was the big stuff. This stuff matters. This stuff's going to hit you, right? Maybe not quite so much, maybe not quite so significant in what you're doing, but it is still important to see. So we're going to walk through that again here with lots and lots of code examples, because that's just how I work. I want to show you these things in action so you can see what they're actually doing. And I have the chat window visible. If you want to go ahead and ask questions, I can do my best to have a go at answering them, because I'm spending all my time right now just noodling around with SwiftUI in iOS 15. So I can do my best to share my discoveries. I should remind you, right now I am running beta 1 of Xcode 13. There are a few bugs here and there. And so things might change. Beta 2, beta 3, beta 4. Hopefully the bugs will go away. A couple of features might be refined between now and release, or perhaps renamed a little bit. We're going to see. But right now, in beta 1, this is how things look. I'm going to start off with something that I think is going to take you by surprise. And I want to show you what's happening and explain to you what's happening and why, because it is surprising. Now, if I had an example little API here, let's say we had something like an API, little application. We had some state, like at state, private var, scaled up is true. And we're going to use this thing to drive some animation. We're going to say that there is some kind of text on our screen with the word, say, first, hello, like that. It has a scale effect attached to it, like this. Not with the CG size, we'll do scaled up 2 or 1. So it's big or it's small. We're going to animate this thing using an animation with linear, and I'll do duration 1. And then I'll do a on tap gesture saying, scaled up dot toggle. So flip the Boolean when this thing is tapped. And that's our entire layout. And you will see briefly if Xcode is going to be happy with me. Boom, there we go. This has been deprecated in iOS 15. This plain animation modifier is going away. And this appears in lots and lots of SwiftUI code, so I wouldn't be surprised if you're like, wait a minute, why have they deprecated animations going up and down? They have, and I'll show you why. I press Command R to build and run this code in my simulator here. So I've got my little title, and I can just tap on it to scale it up and down, just the way you'd expect. And that's really cool. That's really important. But if I go from here to like landscape mode, watch what it's doing. It's like animating the transition, right? And if I had like a long duration here, like maybe a 3-second animation, for example, this just looks ridiculous. It just looks ridiculous. And so here, bing, it's just what? So because, rotation's a state change. It's a state change. Things are happening here. There's available bounds of the screen is changing, and that means it should animate the movement between the two things. That's what we've said. We've said animate yourself no matter what. And what we really meant was actually that scale effect, that should be animated. What we actually got was absolutely every kind of change ever gets animated. And that's not what you want. And so it is very, very clear now, the helpful fix-it here, well, helpful recommendation at least, you either want to use with animation explicitly now, which would mean removing this entirely, whole line, and instead saying in here, with animation, that thing. So you're being explicit. That's the animation I want to have. That's fine, because now it's going to animate only that and not rotation, not scrolling around, whatever. That's what it's going to animate. But there's also another helpful option here you can choose. We're saying animation here. Where's my little error again? Warning, sorry. It will tell you, come on, Xcode, you can do it. Show me the warning. The other option here is with a value instead. You can say, actually, I want you to trigger this animation only when this particular value changes. In this case, I might have said animation linear duration 3. The value I want to bind to really is scaled up. That's what I want to look for. And now we're going to get the animation only when we actually care about it. So that's the easier version of with animation. We can still press on it to animate, like voice animation now, but rotation will just be immediate. So it's one of those things that'll catch you out, but as soon as you see it, you're like, yeah, that's actually a good thing. And so get that out of the way, otherwise you'll be confused and you start trying and migrate your code. But there are lots and lots of little cleanups. And I showed you a few in the last video, but there's so many more available to us now. For example, if you had some kind of detail view here, and it had, let's just do a body, some view, come on you, text, detail. Beforehand, in ye olden days, if you wanted to get rid of this detail view, it was presented in a navigation view or a sheet or whatever it's trying to do, we said something like this: environment presentation mode, var present, hello dog, presentation mode. And then at some point in the future, we'd said something like, let's do button dismiss, presentation mode dot wrapped value dot dismiss. And honestly, that works fine. It's not bad API. It's just not beautiful API. Come on then. It's not beautiful API. Everyone's like, well, what's the wrapped value doing? Now we know what it's doing, but we don't want to care what it's doing. Quite frankly, this is a SwiftUI problem, and they've got a slightly cleaner way of doing this now. There's a new environment key we can read, which is dismiss, and this thing uses call as function, one of the lesser known Swift language features, which lets us allow us to call that exact type, this dismiss action type, call it directly to trigger its effect. So we can now say, just dismiss, get the same behavior, just go away. And that, I think, is much, much more natural. It's just less sort of like, it's not exposing the underbelly of what SwiftUI is trying to do. I think that's an important feature here. If any of the SwiftUI team are present, I would love to know why dismiss just can't somehow be a protocol extension giving us the environment automatically, just so we can just write, dismiss. That'd be nice. There's probably an important reason for it, but I've got no idea what it is. So little tweaks like that, making the whole thing nicer, whole thing better, and it's really, really welcome to see. Less exposing the underbellies. There's a lovely change also to the way list works. Last one, you go, okay? Last one, go. Skedaddle. Out. She'll come back for more. She always does. Anyway, another little tweak to the way we use lists, because lists can now be bound in their elements. So they can pull out a load of elements and pass each one in as a binding to the row. So we can modify them directly in line, which is so much nicer to write. It's a real convenience to work with. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to say we have, look, I did say go away. Come on, enough. Skedaddle, 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 go. No more. Here, no more. The tin's closed now. Get the hint. We can now say something like, I have a user struct, which is identifiable. And every user has a UUID, and there's a name, and there is contacted equals false. So we have some data about a user, and we can make a load of those inside our content view by saying something like @state private var users equals an array of. And I'll do user, it's completing in slow motion, name Taylor, user, let's do a few of these, Adele, and Justin. So now we've got a bunch of users. And what we want to do really is loop over these things and show them in a list one by one. Right, some commas there. Show them one by one, but also provide a way to actually modify this stuff. Why are you complaining at me? What did I screw up this time? Xcode? No, it's just Xcode being unhelpful. Cool. Okay. We can now create a list bound to that user's array. Now, this worked previously. We could have said something like list users, user in, and then text. Go on. Enter. Thank you. Text user.name. And that works great. We've always been able to do that. That's old. But if you wanted to have something in here like, actually, I want a spacer, and then I want to have a toggle switch, has this user been contacted? Bound to is on, let's do user.isContacted. And I'll do labels hidden on that one, so it doesn't do anything other than a voiceover. This is a problem, because this toggle wants to be bound to some kind of value it can modify. It's not a plain Boolean, it's a binding to the Boolean. And so there's a new way of making these lists, which is a wonderful Swift feature just pushed into SwiftUI. It's the ability to use property wrappers with functions, which is new in 5.5. And you just say list $users, then $user here, and now we get an actual binding to the user that we can use with toggle, with text field, with whatever binding you want to make, quite frankly. And so we can now modify the array directly rather than trying to poke around in values like we would have done previously. And so this is another example, I think, of where Swift language improvements make SwiftUI better. Now, I don't know whether the SwiftUI team initiated this or not. They said, hey, we'd like to do this. Could you make it happen in Swift, please? I don't know. But it works. I don't really care where it came from. It works, and it's beautiful for simplifying our code. I'm lazy, right? I want to simplify my code, get as much as I can out of my code and into Swift and SwiftUI. It's much, much nicer. Okay, so we've got a few little tweaks here, which is very, very nice. But there are some actual good features here too. I mean, like really useful features I've been asking for quite a while now. So Prathamesh asks, how exactly is passing the binding to list advantageous compared to passing the array itself? So Apple actually discusses this in, was it What's New in SwiftUI on Tuesday, I think? And they say there's a significant performance difference in terms of the amount of view recreation they're doing on making small changes. They know that only one row is changing as opposed to the entire thing changing, which had happened previously. So there are advantages to using this. It was cool. Yes, important feature a lot of folks requested here, which is that we can now attach buttons as input accessory views to the keyboard. So you got a keyboard slide up with buttons in there. And this is very commonly used for, up and down buttons in form fields, or a done button to hide the keyboard and similar. And it's done using, I love this feature, it's done using the regular toolbar modifier. This is what SwiftUI, I think, in iOS 15 is really much what it's like. They're finding ways to creatively reuse what they have. Things like alert using buttons and similar. They're just making things more unified and simple. And so, if I zap some code over here, and so we can now say, I want to have something like @state private var name equals Taylor. And we're going to bind this thing to text field. We're going to say text field, enter your name. I'll do text $name. I'll give this thing a visible text field style so we can see it. We'll do rounded border. And then for its toolbar, I want this thing to not be, in the actual title bar of the screen area. I want this thing to appear attached to the keyboard. And here we can now say there's a toolbar item group with a placement of .keyboard. And then go ahead and place buttons in there. So, button. Sorry, dog, you're not getting another treat. Seriously, you had like 3 treats. Click me. Print. Clicked. Like that. And that'll be attached to the keyboard. Now, dog, honestly, you might as well go away. They don't like you. They all hate dogs. They're dog haters. Look, see, they're all saying how much they hate dogs. But no treats for you So we're now attaching this thing to the keyboard. Now I would say in beta 1, this is not working. As it is, if I press Command R now, it's not going to work. No, they hate you. They hate dogs. They're dog haters. Sorry. If they liked you, they'd say so in the chat, but they're not, so they hate you. Sorry. No more treats. So here's my little text area. By pressing this thing, I'll get up eventually when it loads. Come on. Give me the keyboard, please. Keyboard. Goodness me, my Mac really is getting very, very slow these days. I need an M1X Mac Pro. There we go. So I've got here my keyboard and sort of the quick type stuff here, but there's no button saying click me. Okay, apparently they like dogs. They love dogs. Oh, there you go. Come on. No one hates you, really. You're good dogs. Anyway, there's no button there, but fortunately the workaround is trivial at this point. You just do navigation view around it, and that correctly triggers the keyboard toolbar to appear. Okay, you have 2 treats because they like you so much. Come on. Work for it. Work. Stretch. Good dog. Right, so here's my new thing now, pressing it now, and with that small little workaround in place, we now see click me appearing in the bar as expected. So it's you know, it'll get fixed, probably beta 3 I expect, but the point is it works. It's a really, really nice API. In practice, I suspect you're going to want to use this for up and down buttons for handling moving from field to field in a form, for example. Make it 3. You're just encouraging the dog. Or you want to say things like, resign the keyboard, whatever, when they finished. So you might say something like, let's do at focus state var is input active equal, that's a bool, sorry. Bool. And then inside here, you'd have, enter your name, yada, 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 yada. And then inside here would be buttons saying, done or similar. And then you would set is input active to be false. Now, the way focus state works is you want to attach that using the focused modifier somewhere. So I've got text field style, I've got toolbar. I'll also say focused is bound to is input active. You're giving me these really sad eyes, dog. Honestly, you've had like 6 treats so far. You're going to get tubby. That's it, though. No more. No more. Skedaddle. That really is your last treat. Okay. So we've now bound it to the done button, basically. So as you press done, it'll remove the active stuff from the focus state, which will deactivate the text field. All being well, let's find out. So I'll press on the text view in its own little merry time. There we go. I can type, I can press done, bang, it just goes away. That's probably how you're going to use it in practice, particularly with things like the number keypad, where there is no done button in there. So there's no other way to resign it, but now there is. Okay, next up, there's a new modifier, which is basically going to replace onAppear. And I asked in the lab, the open office hours, today, about this, and it's going to replace onAppear, unless apparently Kurt was saying, if you like the balance of onAppear on disappear, then fine, you'll keep onAppear. But this new one is better. It's called Task, and it lets you start some kind of asynchronous task when the view is first shown. And brilliantly, it will stop that task. It will cancel it when the view is destroyed. So when you leave the view again, which is fantastic because you can go ahead and kickstart a whole bunch of operations doing stuff, and as soon as you leave the view, not needed anymore, it'll automatically be cancelled. So it's better than onAppear in that respect, but also it's better than onAppear because it is naturally using async await. You're already being launched into an async context, so you can get to do more advanced things. I want to give you a real actual example of using this on, task, hello world, whatever. A real actual example of doing this. We could make a little view source application to sort of view the source code of websites by saying something like there is a source viewer view. It takes a site string, which site to show. There is at state, come on, private var source code. I'll just do loading, ... Inside here, we'll say there is a body returning some view, Then we'll do scroll view inside there with the text of our source code. Hey James, how are you doing? I'll do font, system, and I'll do body, size, but with the design of not swipe, design of monospaced. And as soon as this thing loads, I want it to go ahead and fetch the source code for a site. So I'll say there's a task. And a task is going to do guard let URL equals a URL with a string being our site after https://. So it'll be, that gets appended to it. Otherwise it's ugly in the UI, right? That's our URL. And we'll do else return. I mean, that should always work because we'll hard code the site URLs, but you never know. Enter the URL as that. Then go ahead and fetch that. So we can say, do block, let data and underscore, there we go, equals try await URL session dot shared data task. And we want data task from, which is task from URL. It's really slow. That's the newer one that correctly uses async await. We want that one there. And when we have that, we can go ahead and decode to a string. We'll say our source code equals a string decoding data as utf8.self. And then I'll just trim that to remove any white space because there's lots of junk usually in these websites. Trim characters in, white space, and new lines. If that goes wrong for any reason, we'll just do source code equals failed to fetch site, like this. So we get any kind of website, download it, and then display it on the screen. Now it's thinking, is it? I can't tell. It's code. Yeah, it's fine. It's happy now. And now we can go ahead and use that. We can say, I want to expression context. It looks fine to me. Are you being rubbish again, Xcode? I can't tell. It's like 0 errors, 1 error. It's thinking, it's not sure. I'll come back to that one in a second. Data underscore, it looks fine. Try await, Anyway, I'll come back in a second. Let's finish this first. URL. Maybe someone in the chat will find the error. I'm doing it down here first. We'll make this main content view down here. And this bit's where we're going to try and show the site we want to work with. We'll say our site is an array of apple.com and hackingwithswift.com. Capital W, Hudson. 2 great websites. There are other websites that are available. And inside here, we'll say there is a... Come on, Xcode. It's very, very slow today. There's a list of those sites identified by self. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Let's identify by sites. Yes, thank you, Andy. Was Andy? You pointed out. That's what you meant. Data. Oh, I was thinking data. What do you mean by data? I think I meant this data up here. Anyway, data. Sorry, my mistake. List of sites, and for each one of these things, just pull the site name in. We'll do a navigation link to that site, with the content being a source viewer, site, like that. Push to that site with some kind of title. Navigation title, view, source, boom. And that's basically it. I mean, it's really very, very easy to make this thing. I'll just press Command R and run it in my simulator. And all being well, I'll choose apple.com. Loading. Boom, there we go. Gosh, look at all the languages. So there you go. DC takedown is the top of the thing. Okay, cool. It works for them. Then let's do hacking with Swift, loading, bang. No junk, straight to the point. Okay, so you can see how straightforward it is. Prathmesh, I think task make it explicit that I want to do some async work. Well, yeah, so on up here, I know what you mean. I think because task is async, it can call synchronous stuff freely. So I'm not necessarily sure it's much of a reason to have on appear versus task. But you're right. If that helps clarify your intent to you, using on appear shows just some quick work, doing some local stuff. Fine, whatever works. But certainly, it's the place you want to do your setup for your remote stuff. Fetch data from the web, download it, decode it somehow, and display it like I'm doing here. Okay. Next up, let's delete some of this code from here. Next up, there's another new view type, and this one is called Groupbox. And Groupbox is brilliant because it existed on macOS before for doing groups of stuff that you'd see regularly in setting screens and so forth. But in iOS, I've done a really, really good adaptation of it. And I love it because it groups things together visually with like a light background color behind it, so you can see what it's trying to do. And it's sort of saying, here's one bit of thing, here's a different bit of work, different bit of work. So it's visually laid out cleanly on the screen. And it looks like this. Let's give it a try now. So I'll say, in my content view, there is a group box with a text saying your account in a font of headline. And I'll do another text saying username is tswift89. And then a text saying city, Nashville. And over here on the right-hand side, all being well, it will sit and think. And there we go. There's our laid out thing here, which is very nice. And we also get to have multiple layers of these things stacked up if you want to. And that's where it gets very clever because you get automatic adaptation for the layouts. So if I have here my text being text outer content, and then inside there, another group box, group box with text inner content, and then another group box inside there. Right, let's just stack them up even like below that one, like that. There we go. Text innermost content. No more treats. Seriously, you've had your luck. Content. Then we get, you can sort of see it's like a variegated effect on the right hand side here. But I think it looked particularly good in dark mode. I think it looks great in dark mode because we don't have access to the multiple semantic background colors that UIKit does. And this kind of gives it to us. We've made, if you can see on my screen, it's like a light gray, slightly darker gray, even darker gray behind. So we get access to UIKit's layered background color effect now, which looks really, really nice with SwiftUI. If you want to, you can give them titles. I think it looks pretty ugly, but you can just do this thing has a title of important stuff. And it just gets kind of dumped on the left. I mean, it's pretty, like for me, obviously as design is subjective. For me, it's not particularly appealing. It does look good on macOS. Groupbox with titles are native on macOS. But then it's like, just over on the left. I don't know. Anyway, that's Groupbox. There's a change toggle stuff. You can now do toggle buttons. So you could say something like, I want to have a toggle state here. At state private var is on equals false. Then inside here, there's a toggle saying filter. Catch up, please. Is on is dollar is on. And then I'll do toggle style dot button and tint dot mint. And this toggle style is new. It's a new toggle style. It looks fantastic. You'll see it elsewhere in iOS for things like filtering and similar. And what will happen is, it's thinking here, it'll be this mint color by default. It looks like a regular button. When it's pressed in, it flips its colors and stays that way. So it looks really, really nice, I think. Nice alternative. And there are other button updates too, because you can now, look, there's no chance to clear off. I'm trying to stream here, honestly. You can now say, I want to have one of the other button styles in iOS. And there's, mainly the Apple's used for a long time, but now they're able to us too. So for example, if I had a regular button, not a toggle button, the regular button here, let's do, come on, Xcode, it's very, very slow. Button by $0.99. And then when that's pressed, I'll just do print buying. Got my action. And I'll give this thing the button style of dot bordered. And you might be able to see on the right-hand side when it reloads itself a little bit. Well, there you go. So I'll show you in a simulator. It's probably easy to see in a simulator. You get this sort of regular grey button with a blue button tint over it with text. Like that. There you go. So, I mean, it looks good, right? That's actually fairly commonly used in Apple's own apps, and now it's just there for us to use. It becomes really good when selectively used with the new control prominence modifier, because you can now say this control prominence for this thing is increased. Make this thing stand out extra strong on the screen somehow. And you get, all over the place, like App Store style buttons now for zero work, which is great. So when it's loading at its own happy speed, boom, there we go. So you get the new prominent style buttons. Now, Apple do make it really clear in their talk, please don't use lots of these buttons. They look really strange when you have lots of these buttons. It's like having measles on your screen. So use them selectively. Make a handful of things prominent as opposed to a wall of prominence on the screen. And if you want to, of course, you can tint these things. You could say, I want to add a tint of, let's do indigo. I like indigo. That also works when it loads. Come on. There we go. So you have this indigo button now. And if you want to also, you can make them roles. So you could say this has the role of .destructive, making it red by default, but we made it a prominent button, prominent destructive button. So you'll get a very clear red thing here. There's a question from eSneaker30. Does that button style apply to corner radius, or if you use an image for the view? So you even had your own custom corner radius on top of the button style, because that's their button style. It's designed to look like that. I mean, you could probably clip it further if you really wanted to. As for images, I should certainly hope so. I don't actually have any here. I can drop in. I think, has it got any pictures in here? No. I could probably find like an avatar of me somewhere. Do a bit of me buttons. Let's do this one. It's an old one. Yeah, it's an old one. But it's, okay. Me. And then let's place me in the picture. So rather than having a button like this, we're going to get rid of all this jazz and then say there's a label. The image of, did I call it me or did I call it Paul? I called it me. A label of me, if you really want to see me in the picture. And what's that going to do? I want to find out, isn't there, really? Just to run it back and see what it's going to do. On resume preview, you can do it. So print button bind, label me. I mean, I've got no idea what it's going to do. I mean, it'll look pretty ugly for a start if it works. Oh, it's a huge picture of me. That is not the size I wanted. Resizable. Let's make it much, much smaller. Width 64, height 64. And, I mean, it looks, yeah, sorry, eSneaker30, it looks terrible. I wouldn't recommend that as a particularly good piece of design. So, yeah, I mean, technically it works, but no, it doesn't work. Anyway, there are more image updates. And in fact, they've done some really, really great work with SF symbols. And this is interesting because SF symbols, when it launched, was like, wow, that's amazing. And then SF symbols 2 comes out like, that's even better. There's stacks more. There's multicolor. And now they've gone further. And it's just like, what? They've just done even more in SF symbols. I just absolutely love it. And, you know, it's old news that SF symbols, you can just say, actually, foreground color green, foreground color red, get different colors of SF symbols. Or you could say rendering mode original and get the multicolor symbols for things like weather. We'd have, you know, yellow sun and then gray cloud, whatever. That's old, right? New this year is we get extra flexibility over individual parts of the image. So we could say, I want to have a hierarchical variant or have a completely custom palette. It's brilliant. Honestly, the team who made this, I think it's Tom and others, well done. You're amazing. Anyway, for example, I could say there is an image, and I'll use the system name of theater masks. That's one of the new ones. And I'm going to use, in this one, a nice chunky font. Font system size 144. So you can kind of hopefully see. There we go. Nice chunky font. That's old. That's not exciting at all. We're going to add to this, though. There is a symbol rendering mode. And I'm going to use hierarchical. And when that enables, boom, you're going to see a little bit of depth here. And the one on the left is black, the one on the right is grey. And it's that easy. It'll help just things stand out. So rather than having overlapping complexity, it's just got a bit of depth to it, more obviously signifying the layout in the image. This works perfectly well with combinations of foreground color. So you could say I want hierarchical mode plus also foreground color of, let's do blue. And then we'll get eventually blue and then a faded blue. It's not faded blue. I think it's actually just transparency behind the scenes. But it looks fantastic, quite frankly, which is cool. For real power, this is where you can actually deploy custom palettes. You can say, I want to have exactly this color here, exactly this color here in different parts of the same image. It's really very impressive. So for example, I could have said, show me the new share play icon. I can have networking around with my friends and so forth. And then add not foreground color, but foreground style. And I'll say I want to have a blue and a black. And with that in place, I'll get a two-tone layout when it updates my preview. Gonna do it? Not gonna do it? Do it, please. Thinking about it. Oh, sorry, I've got palette mode. I'm being slow. I'm sitting there staring at hierarchical mode still. Make sure you put palette mode on, otherwise it's not going to work. You'll be staring like a chump like me. And there we go. Two-tone. Blue and black at the same time. They've split up perfectly. Now, how those colors are applied depends on the symbol. I haven't said the little person figure must be blue and the little bars must be black. I haven't done that. They've done that ahead of time. And sometimes symbols have 2 layers. Sometimes they have 3 layers. Explore them individually to see what happens when you poke around. Bluntly, that's all you can really do. The symbols that have variants, you want to add an extra color. And I'm going to go ahead and just ban that person. Goodbye, Farhana. I mean, just spam if you want to. I'll just ban you. It doesn't matter to me. Anyway, we have another example. Let's do something more complex like person.3.sequence.fill. So there's 3 people. I've made, 1 blue, 2 black right now. But I might want to say I want to have blue and then green and then red. And you'll get all 3 stacked up like that. It's just brilliant. And you saw it was able to adapt when they had exactly 2. It just chose the second one to be repeated. So here it'd be blue, green, green. So it can adapt with 2 colors or 3 colors. They all work. It's absolutely fantastic. Well done to them. And there's another image change. I mean, they're really packing these things in. I just love it. And this is something that I think gets to the core of what I want in SwiftUI. And it's a bit like, customers don't know what they want, but I know it after I see it. This is exactly what I want in SwiftUI. I've done a really, really good job. And it's this. If I had in my body a tab view, I'll do text of view 1 with a tab item. I'll do label home and system image house. I'll copy and paste that a few times. So we've got view 1, view 2, and view 3. And each of these things will have slightly different icons attached to them. So I'll say that view 2, you've got an account label, and your image will be person. And then your label here, that's going to be community. And I'll do our old pal theater masks. There we go. What you might notice is that it's doing work for us here. Work we didn't ask for. If I go to SF Symbols, which is there. This is SF Symbols 3, the new version with all the latest symbols and stuff. You can look up these pictures. You can see, well, what is house, what is person, what is theater mask, and whatever you want to, right? And look up what it actually is. And if you look up theater masks, or house or whatever, theater mask, what you'll see is this picture in the bottom right corner. If I sort of zoom in here, that is what we're looking at, this sort of theater mask, and that's actually theatermasks.fill, that picture there. I asked for theater masks, I'm getting theatermasks.fill. So it is flipping the picture around for me. Here is person. I ask for person, I actually get person.fill. That's what I'm getting. I ask for person, I'm getting person.fill. So what we're seeing here is, am I blocking? Oh, a picture of me, sorry. Oh dear me, sorry. How do I get around that? Sneak behind me? Can I move me around? I'll move me around. There we go. Sorry. Thank you very much, folks. We're getting different pictures. We're getting different things. I get it, folks. I've moved it already. We have person.fill. We asked for person. We have theatermask.fill. We asked for theater. And account.fill. We asked for account. And that is a small still. Zoom still blocks for you. Does it? I can't make it any more visible for you. It's there. It's like, do I have to like move my whole Xcode window? Look, dear me, I can't make any more space on my screen. It's like there. Look, there, my screen. That's as big as I can get, folks. I can do much more than that. Oh, now you can see it. Okay, phew. So we're asking for one thing, we're seeing another thing. And that is another important SF symbols iOS change in SwiftUI. It is automatically recognizing what we're doing with the image. It's saying, well, you've asked a person, you're in a tab environment, person, the outline is not the right image for this context. Adapt and show the filled version automatically. And that's amazing because we don't have to worry about getting the right image again and again in. We just say, hey, that's roughly what I want, you figure it out. And even better is the fact that it'll flip on macOS because macOS uses outlined icons rather than filled icons. So if I'm going to try and choose the right thing as we go, we just show, hey, you figure it out, and it will do. Small change, a lovely change, really, really very impressive. Anyway, let's try and put my little layout back to normal so you can see, get back to what I was doing before. Otherwise, you'll miss other things and be angry. Roughly there, about there, I think. Anyway, yes, next up, there's a really small but very helpful modifier now called privacy sensitive. And this thing lets us mark part of our view as being somehow private to the user. Their credit card number, their social security number, whatever it is, something they don't want to share. The bank account, for example, right now, that's private information. No one wants to have that visible all the time. And so we can mark it as being redacted with the reason of privacy. For example, we might say in our body up here that there is a VStack. And the text will be card number and the font of headline. And below that, the text of my actual real credit card number, which is 1234 5678 9012 3456. Totally my actual credit card number, but this is privacy sensitive. Now, by default, it'll do nothing at all. It'll just work, right? It'll show regular text to you. It's not in any way restricted here. But in environments that are privacy sensitive, it's equivalent of having a redaction reason in place. If I had a redaction on this saying censor out or hide it out, it would go away. And in practice, what it means right now is on your home phone screen for your phone, if you swipe to the side, you'll see a bunch of widgets. If your widget's on there and it has sensitive information, that will automatically be redacted. It'll say you are in a redacted environment situation, don't show the full detail. Similarly, the new watchOS 8 stuff, you can have your app running as an always on app now. And again, the screen will still be on, dimmed. I have something important in there, some health information, for example. That's privacy sensitive. Mark it like that, and the system will pass in redacted reasons at the right time for you. If they then unlock their phone, fine. It'll no longer be redacted. So there's no actual work to do. It just works out of the box, which is really, really nice. If you want to, you can query at runtime whether you are being redacted. You say something like at environment /dot redacted or redaction reasons, sorry, var redaction reasons, like that. And then inside here, you could say if our redaction reasons contains privacy, then we'll just show something else. Text of hidden, for example. Otherwise, show that. So you can customize if you want to. It's down to you. But the system's going to apply it for you most of the time. You don't have to worry about saying, oh yeah, now it's sensitive or not. That's the system's thing to worry about. Someone asks, they hope it applies to screenshots. It's a very good idea. If it doesn't already, file a radar. Say so, because that'd be really, really nice as a way to avoid screenshots. So that's another small change. And it's helping make our experience simpler and cleaner and nicer. One less thing to worry about. We just say this bit, this bit, this bit, they're private. We don't care what that means. We don't care when it's enabled or disabled. It's done by the system. And that's something that SwiftUI does so very well. There's also some development changes to make our life easy as developers. In particular, there are two more things before I finish. One is that in our preview provider down here, we now have the option of saying, my preview interface orientation is something. So you could say, I want to have my content view here with the preview interface orientation of one of the four rotations. Landscape left, landscape right, portrait, or portrait upside down, aka the cursed rotation. So we could say, actually, I want to preview in landscape left, and when it finally plays back in a moment, it will, boom, be in landscape. It's a small thing, but it's one of those things that if your app supports landscape and portrait, this is a real godsend because you can now just go have them both back to back in your previews. You can say, I want to have content view and content view in landscape, and basically leave it running like this. Maybe zoomed out so you can see both, but just see them constantly as you're working, just how it adapts to every layer as you're working. So it's a really, really nice way of working. So I recommend that. And last but not least, they have introduced, or exposed at least, a little debugging method we can call, which will tell us what has triggered a change in a view, what's caused the view to be reloaded. And this was very, very hard to do before. You'd be sitting there going, my view's reloading, what's going on? And I saw a brilliant workaround for this, not workaround, a brilliant way to spot it from Peter Steinberger. He says he basically gave his view a background of color.random and made color.random a computed property that makes it a different color every single time. And so when his screen was redrawing, it's like, red, green, blue, teal, orange, whatever it is, changing constantly. So he's like, okay, that view's broken, I've got to try and fix it. But then how you actually figure out what's causing the change, like something's triggered a change somewhere, don't know what it is, that's what this piece of code lets you do. And it's very, very simple to use. And I'm going to try and show it to you now with an example. I'm going to make a simple observable object called evil state object, and this will be an observable object. And this thing's going to simply have a timer that will run on our time when we want it to. We'll do an initializer here. Our timer equals a timer dot scheduled timer using time interval and repeats. This one. So run every 1 second, repeating true. And our block, this is going to be, come on, give me trading closure syntax Xcode. I want modern, nice Swift. Our trading closure is going to be underscore in. If int.random in 1 through 5 is 1, then self.object will change .send. So this is going to trigger basically semi-random occasional state changes. This could happen anywhere in your entire view model, right? Anywhere, any environment object could just change, don't know what it is. That's what's causing it here. It's quite straightforward. And now in our content view, we'll make one of these things. We'll say there is an @state object, oh, come on, Hudson, object, var evil object equals an evil state object, boom. And this thing is going to be being watched by our view. looking for changes, and our view's going to go, just what could possibly go wrong in here? This is a great view. This is fine. So what could possibly go wrong? And behind the scenes, that's going to be, being recreated once every few seconds, randomly, without us realizing. We wouldn't necessarily see that, but SwiftUI is doing work. And if you think, well, I'm losing state, or I'm losing values, or I'm losing navigation, or whatever, and you're not sure why, this is where this new function comes in. What you want to do is return that text from your body, and inside the body, directly, you want to say print self._print changes, like that. The underscore marks it as being an internal method. This is not designed for shipping to the App Store. Do not call this shipping applications to the App Store. Debugging only. And when you run this back, it's going to now tell you what triggered the view to be laid out again, to be recreated. Why is body being reinvoked? And for us, it'll happen semi-randomly. So let's find out here. So it's saying nothing at all currently. Give it a few seconds, all being well. Boom. Evil object has changed. So it's telling us what's happening. It's saying that object there changed. This exact thing inside here. Now, obviously, we don't know what inside there has changed. It doesn't tell us that. You can't track properties. For example, if I had inside here an @published property called change count, right? If I incremented that self.changeCount plus equals 1, the evil object is still changing, but I still don't know why. It's not going to say evil state object dot change count has changed, just evil object has changed, as we're seeing in a moment. Let's see, it's going to change hopefully in a second. There we go. So it says, the type has changed. We don't know what inside it. So there's still some work to do from us. We're like, okay, at least that's where the bad bit is. We can go investigate that more closely and figure out what's going on. Anyway, that is almost another whole hour of what's changed in SwiftUI for iOS 15. There's the whole original early video as well from Monday, making 2.5 hours of change stuff for SwiftUI. And there's still more. There's, Canvas and similar. There are changes more beyond this. It's very, very impressive. And I'm going to carry on noodling around for some time to come and see where it gets me. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. You got to offset those dislikes. Leave a nice comment. Share it with your friends. Even better, subscribe to the channel. It's down to you. But I'm doing this for free, so it'd be nice if you at least hit the like button. If you have any questions, I can do my best to answer them. If you want to have a go, I'll have a go and see where it gets us. Otherwise, you can follow me on Twitter. I am 2straws, TWO straws. And if you want to know more about SwiftUI, I've got a whole website to help you out. Hacking with Swift, hackingwithswift.com. Go and check it out. There's stacks of free SwiftUI tutorials there to go and learn from. In the corner of the screen, which is over here for you, this side, there is a big URL, hackingwithswift.com/offers, where you can save half price on all my books and bundles. Mikolai is saying, when it is refreshable, can you change the indicator? So there is some customization here, but I haven't figured it out yet. It's not straightforward and it's not documented, but it appears to be possible. So I'm going to basically poke that with a stick until I get what I want. The traditional Paul Hudson way of working. You are most welcome, everyone saying thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. My evening e-sneaker, by the way, this is it. I'm going to turn off my computer, turn off my lights, and then have a glass of wine because Dub is done. I might post some updates to SwiftUI by example, covering the things from this video. Tomorrow morning I'll do that, quite frankly. We can wait. It's not exactly a high priority thing to do right now, so I can perhaps wait till tomorrow morning. But yeah, it's been a very, very busy week for me. 5 live streams, big book update, at other events, and yeah, it's been busy. I think I've earned my time off. Is Swipeable limited to lists? I'm not sure, Irinde, what Swipeable is. I'm afraid I'm not really sure. Lamin asks, what's new in maps? I checked. I can't see anything new in maps. I had hoped to find a way to customize it more, to have more power there, but I didn't see anything actually, sadly, which is a bit of a shame. Codeable config. I have not seen that Prathamesh. I'll investigate that tomorrow, not tonight. Anything else? Will I make a video about new algorithms and Swift algorithms? Maybe. I'm not sure. Swift collection's interesting. Swift algorithm is interesting. I might cover it. I might not. Maybe a quick article on it, perhaps. Laksh, I did focus in the first video. It appeared here briefly, and then it went on to just mostly Monday's video. Tamid asks, how do bug fixes for Xcode 13 beta work? Slowly is the answer. You know, we're using beta 1. They will have finished beta 2 already. They'll be on beta 3 by now. They just will. And as a result, if you file a bug today, it might, if you're very, very fortunate, make it into beta 3. In practice, the earliest you're going to get it in is beta 4, if it gets in at all. This is why everyone says, please, please, please file your feedback early. File your radars now. Don't hang around. Spot a problem, report it to Apple. You maximize the chance of it being fixed before release. So please look at that. Cramps a lot. How do you do multi-column value pickers? Well, hour, minute, seconds is part of date picker in that particular example. So if you want to use date picker, you could have a time mode inside that to get hours and minutes and seconds if you wanted to. But there isn't much multi-column support, to be honest with you. It's not great. And in fact, we saw table land this year for macOS. And that's so you can do multi-column lists. It's beautiful. And I wish it was in iOS because, I mean, folks are going to want it anyway. I think it'll land soon because you want in UIKit, at least for Catalyst, you can do good macOS apps. So I'd like to see it so we can get better multi-column apps. We'll see. Maite asks, hello Maite, is there anything you're on XE test? There's supposed to be, but I haven't seen anything. You're right that you now have async calls. That's been the major difference I've seen. So I haven't seen anything beyond that, I'm afraid. Carl, is SwiftUI ready for prime time? Yes, it is. Absolutely. Apple are using it for, you know, the weather app, shipping to 1 billion users. Not many other people have 1 billion users for their iPhone app. And if Apple thinks it's good enough for us. And they're using it in Mac for shortcuts. So it's popular. But Mikolai, yes, the betas are normally Tuesday, but it's all remote. And Apple, you know, obviously they're also at home and they're also being stressed out by the pandemic and similar. So we'll find out exactly how they do. I'm not too pressured on them. Geraldine, why would I use lazy VStack over list now that we can remove separators? That's a good question. I don't know. I guess with a lazy VStack, because it goes inside a scroll view in the equivalent, you can control the indicator style, for example, if you wanted to. And that's something you wouldn't otherwise be able to do a list, I don't think. Irinde, does Apple have any new official SwiftUI tutorials? Not that I've seen, but I don't use them. They have released DocC, which does generate those SwiftUI style tutorials. So perhaps some third-party authors might use that to make Apple-style beautiful tutorials. I'm not sure. We'll see how it goes. Is there anything to force multiple visible columns on iPad in portrait? Yeah, so I think I don't think so. I haven't seen anything yet. So I haven't seen it yet, I'm afraid. But I could try and noodle around some more. But yeah, you generally want to let it do its thing on that front, which is annoying, I agree. How about Xcode on iPad? I mean, it's as good as it's going to get, quite frankly, which is the Swift Playgrounds 4. And it's really nice. Swift Playgrounds 4 is very nice. So I feel happy with that. They've done a good job of making a nice halfway house between Xcode on Mac and the sort of cartoony, come on, last chance, the cartoony bite, move forward, collect gem, whatever, turn right, things they had before. So Playgrounds 4 is actually quite nice. I think that's probably as close as we're going to get to Xcode on iPad for the time being. So not particularly looking for more at this point. Lamin, you got your Plus subscriber gifts. I'm glad. I saw you tweet about it, actually. Thank you very much. Does Playgrounds 4 support SPM? So I believe it might do, you know. I thought it wouldn't do, but they seem to suggest in the labs it would do. They wouldn't answer, and this really annoyed me. I asked them, does it support Git? That was it, and I didn't get an answer. I asked them again, does it support Git? No answer. And the last 25, 30 minutes of that lab was just complete silence. There were no other questions coming in. They had stacked a chance to answer the question and chose not to. So I suspect that means no, it does not support Git in Playgrounds 4. I just don't want to say that. Or they weren't planning to, but now they might try and get it in before release. Because, you know, there's no beta yet, so we're going to see. Will it ever do a video about SwiftUI features in macOS? Maybe, but not for the foreseeable future. Most folks are building iOS apps. So I think that's enough time with questions. Thank you so much for coming along. I hope you enjoyed the talk, apart from the 4 haters. Please feel to share the video link with your friends on Twitter, and I'll see you next time. Hope you enjoyed the week. I certainly did. It's now my chance for a very, very long sleep. Take care, folks. Bye.